We're live talking to some of the startups about their awesome technologies they're bringing. Okay, pause right there. When you are doing an interview with someone, when someone's talking on the camera, look at them. Don't look in the camera, because you don't know, if there's 2 cameras set up, you don't know if the camera's gonna switch to you. And I see this on live interviews, especially even on CNN. They'll be like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm talking to so-and-so. That camera will switch to the second person, and they just look like bored, or they're sleeping, or they're checking their phone, or they just don't realize the camera's on them. So you're gonna want to make sure your eye contact is good. Okay, we can stop that section now, so thank you for your time. Sorry, that wasn't, hopefully that wasn't too painful. Okay. So, a good tip to check your eye contact before you go on camera is just practice it in the mirror a couple of times before you go on. Because what I've also noticed is when people are talking to me, and I do this too, I'm actually a personal victim of this, your eyes will get shifty, like you move around because you're thinking so much. So always make sure, do I look confident in what I'm saying? Do I look like I'm trustworthy? Do I look like I'm genuine? And that can always be conveyed in the eyes. And you're just gonna wanna look interested and engaged while you're talking to someone. So like I said, you can either practice that in the mirror in front of people, or you can just have someone record you with your camera and just talk about your startup. Do your elevator pitch in front of them. Okay, so here's the next thing we're gonna talk about. How to deflect and give energy. So this is really important. Sometimes international reporters, they like to ask you really awkward questions. And this also goes into the manners section. If you are asked a question off camera and they say, oh, it's off record, it's always on record to a reporter. When you come in, the way you say, oh, I'm so tired, I was doing this or whatever, they're going to keep note of that. That could be part of the story. So just make sure, like I said, you're always on. You're always being recorded. The cameraman, for instance, might be doing an audio check with you, and the camera might be on record while he's doing that audio check. You might not think it is, but it is. I've actually, several times in my stories, I've used before the interview starts, the person sitting down, getting comfortable, maybe they did a laugh. So just be aware that you're always gonna be recorded and you're always gonna be observed. And like I said, if you're the best version of yourself, it's gonna be okay. So if you are asked a really uncomfortable question and it doesn't have anything to do with your startup, we're gonna show you what to do with that. This is kind of like a Captain American shield. You just learn how to deflect, and it's super simple. There's just one phrase that you need to know that can work on all of your guys' startups or companies, and if you just keep it in the back of your pocket, then it's gonna help you during your interview. All you say is, I'm here to talk about the innovation of enter startup name, and that's what I'll be discussing. That's all you have to say when you're asked a weird question. And it works in so many different situations. If you memorize this like your ATM PIN number, you're gonna use this in so many different ways. Just always remember to practice before you say this calmly, because you're always gonna wanna be prepared for the unexpected. So I wanna show you guys how that can potentially be used. So Nawaf here is going to sit down with me and we're gonna show you. I'm gonna pretend to be the startup, he's gonna pretend to be the reporter, and we're gonna talk this through.
All righty.
Hi, Nawaf.
Hi.
Okay.
We get the camera? Or?
The camera went to sleep. Okay, so the first technique I'm gonna show you guys when you use this, the camera would not go on. Of course, technical difficulties. It's live television.
Live.
Okay, so when you guys are sitting down and you're doing your interview, the first way that you use this sentence is repeat it, okay? So this is the technique that I teach our startups. All right, go ahead. Do it.
Get ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Welcome to ArabNet. We're
Thank
very
you.
excited to have you here. Would like for you to talk to us a little bit about what you do, your startup, and what are you doing here today at the event?
Well, I have this startup called Powerhouse, and we just started, and it helps install solar panels for companies, and it can save households 500 SAR a year.
That is really great, really great. So tell me, being a woman who's running the startup, do you find any challenges in the region, specifically in Saudi Arabia, doing the business?
You know, I'm here to talk about the innovation of Powerhouse, and I'm really excited to share that with you.
That is great. And so tell me, how is it living in Saudi Arabia these days?
Like I said, I just want to talk about my startup, Powerhouse, and I want to tell you some of the innovations that we're doing.
Do you drive in the region?
Okay, pause. But do you see what happened just there? I repeated it. He pestered me the second time, and I just repeated the sentence. If you say that, you're fine. You know why? Because the reporter has a non-story.
Okay.
What's
that's
his
out
story?
of sketch. That's out of sketch.
The reporter has a non-story because what they're looking from you is a reaction. They just got the same soundbite. They're not going to be able to use that quote for the thing that they were trying to look into. So the second technique that you guys can do is change the topic. So first time, you use the sentence, which is not showing up. First time, you use the sentence. The second time, you switch to topic. So this is how it goes. All right. Yes, let's do it again.
So tell me about life in Saudi Arabia, being a female and all.
Well, right now, like I said, I want to talk to you about my startup Powerhouse and the innovation we're doing.
Beautiful. So tell me more about that and being a female running the startup in a very tough environment.
Well, like I said, I'm here to discuss the really innovative thing about Powerhouse. And it's really cool how it's saving people thousands of dollars a year.
You don't face any hurdles of the day-to-day life with running your business?
Okay, so pause. I kind of flipped on that one because I did not practice. So don't judge me. However, you switch the topic. The reporter has no way to go but your path. Because if it's a live interview especially, the producer's in their ear telling them to wrap it up, hurry it up, and they have to follow what you're saying. The third technique that you can do is you guys can just stay quiet. And sometimes everyone's like, what? I can stay quiet? Yes, and this is how you do it. I'll show you. Okay, ask me another question.
Another one?
Yes.
You didn't answer any of the questions. Answer one. So living in Saudi, how is that for a female? I understand it's really rough. You have a great startup, and I think that the social life there is a bit of a challenge. Tell me more about the social life.
You just
Awkward.
don't say anything. Right. So after that, you can pause. Always, if they're asking you a tough question, pause. And then you can just say, good luck with your interviews. I hope you enjoy the conference.
Thank you.
That's it. You're done. I know it sounds super awkward, but they're not going to be able to do anything with that, especially if you stay silent. There's no quote, and you do not regret anything you said. And when you also stay silent, or when you're hearing them talk to you and ask you a tough question, don't nod your head. That is like the worst thing you can do in an interview because they're going to take that. They might grab that. So just try to keep your head steady and just look at them and answer. I mean, politicians do it all the time. If you YouTube some politicians, you probably get some, or reality stars actually, you could get some great reactions. And then practice that yourself. Once you practice it, I mean, it sounds really nerve-wracking, but once you practice it a couple of times, it's going to feel natural because you're so prepared. Okay, no.
Well, since we're asking questions,
Yes.
what is the worst thing you can do in a response, like on a tough question? Can you just let the crowd know on what not to really do in terms of being, aggressive in terms of answering?
The worst thing you can do is you can walk off. Oh my God, just walk off because you're so upset. They got you so mad. That is going to be a YouTube viral video. Someone's going to, yes, you might be famous, but not for your startup and not in the way you want it to be. So the worst thing you can do is get off and walk away and do it in a really angry fashion. Or just stutter and stumble over your words because you're trying to give them something. Don't give them anything. You don't have to. If it doesn't have to do anything with your startup, then don't answer it. By the way, journalists and reporters are really nice people. I'm just telling you that there's some people out there that are going to ask some weird questions, and you just need to be prepared. Okay. So the last thing I want to teach you guys is that this is the biggest thing I see ruin an interview. You might be giving the perfect quotes. However, your perception of your energy is completely off. You might be looking like this, but you have no idea you are. Now, I think it's also important to note to you guys, communication is super important, but not with words. You need to know that your body language and the tone and your expression are more important than the words you're speaking. 7%. That's how important words are when you're communicating to people in an interview. This is a study that's done. You can look it up. It's called 55-38-7. If I want to compare also with, like, for instance, if you have a pet. Does anybody have a pet here? Does anybody have a dog, a pet, or anything? Animals? Okay, a kitty cat. So there's also studies that show that dogs and cats, they don't respond to you saying, no, don't do that. They respond to your inflection. So any type of way that you're communicating, that is the most important thing. And so this is what you're going to need to do. I want you to speak 10 to 15% louder than your normal voice. This always works. And I'm going to tell you why. Have you ever watched an interview, like on local news or CNN or BBC, anything, and you're sitting there and you completely zone out and you have no idea what they said? That's a really blah spokesperson. They did not do their job right. They did not give their 10 to 15%. I get a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm mild-mannered or I'm soft-spoken. I don't know how to do this. And this is what I want you to think about before you do your interview. Imagine that you are with really good childhood friends and you're sitting around your living room and you're talking about your experiences, your memories. During those times, you are your version of yourself, but you're much more engaged, you're dynamic, and you're more interesting. So just think of that before you go on and do 10 to 15% louder. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to win. You're going to be a lot better. If you record this, if you record this and ask someone to do a scale of 1 to 10 what your energy is like, 9 times out of 10, they're going to like your 10 to 15%.